Good morning, I'm Sunetra Choudhury, political editor of the Hindustan Times, bringing you all that you need to know about COVID-19 on Thursday, the 11th of June. First up, a look at the numbers. We are now at 286,000 infections with almost 11,000 new cases in just the last 24 hours. The number of people who've died so far in India is 8,107. But we begin today with good news. For the first time since the infections started rising in March, we now have a daily rate where the number of recoveries exceeds the number of new infections. If you take a look at the numbers, since last week, there have been 4,529 cases daily on average. But the number of recoveries, as I said, exceeds that, with being 5,397. In fact, on Tuesday, the recoveries exceeded it by 1,375, which is very, very significant, especially if you consider the fact that just in May, in fact, the highest was on May 11th, where the number of new cases exceeded the number of recoveries by 23,000. So just imagine how far we have come so far. Well, that's not the only thing. We've also now crossed the 5 million testing mark, and it is still the lowest testing rate among the 10 worst hit countries. So for example, if you take Italy, which has less cases than ours, it is testing 71,000 per million people of the population. And in India, we're only testing 3,797 tests per million population. So we still have a long way to go. But another landmark that we have tested 5 million people till now. Speaking of testing, will we see a change in the criteria that is prescribed by the Indian Council of Medical Research? Well, what we've been told, Hindustan Times has been told, is that loss of taste and smell may be added as well. Remember, when testing first started and these guidelines were formed in January, at that time, you just had breathlessness, fever, and coughing as symptoms of COVID-19. Then you had diarrhea and vomiting being added, and now we may have this being added in keeping in line with research that is emerging from the rest of the world as well. Well, we have talked about the impact that migrants going back to their homes is having on the economy and on restarting businesses. Well, it seems that some firms aren't waiting for them to have the reassurance to come back. They are taking the initiative to really help them come back. So you have firms like the one that is building the Polavaram Dam project in Andhra Pradesh. They have in fact brought back 1,000 of their workers. They bought train tickets for them. They also got them COVID tested so that they could come back to work. They aren't the only ones, of course. You have a Bengaluru firm which actually flew down 10 plumbers because it had a real estate project which it needed to start working on and needed people coming back. And you have a Punjab firm which spent 2 lakh rupees to get 50 workers back to work. So you have all of these private initiatives, and the numbers are still small, however, compared to the 10 million, almost 10 million that the government told Supreme Court went back by Shramik trains, the special trains that were started to get migrant laborers back home. And finally, earlier this week, we reported how monuments were being reopened and also places of worship. But it seems some of them may be doing a rethink because of the rising number of cases, like the iconic Jama Masjid here in the capital. After several cases in that area, the Shahi Imam there is reconsidering and has asked the local people if they should shut it again. After it opened on Monday, you had 200 people offering prayers there, but the authorities there trying to figure out if it in fact makes sense to close it. This rethink is also being done by states. For instance, Rajasthan has now started monitoring and is restricting the movement of people interstate and saying because of the resurgence of cases in the state as well. Those are the news updates for now. Keep tracking them on hindustantimes.com.